Welcome to another weekly Forex forecast, traders. We're going to start it off with the US dollar index here. As you can see, we did react off of this weekly area of support the last couple of weeks, and it has been nothing but straight green to the upside as far as the weekly chart goes. I do think we will probably lose some steam here in a little bit, and I will explain why as we go down to the lower time frames. If you look on the 1 hour chart, we had a pretty nice 1 hour trend. I really liked the trend. Very clear peaks and valleys, and we're just looking really consistent. If you get a little bit aggressive with a trend line like this, which I think is fair, then you could actually say that the trend has been pretty much changed on the 1 hour chart. But this other trend line that I have as well, it is significant as well in my opinion, although it did get a little away from us. It is going to come in contact next probably, and if we break that, then I think all signs are pointing to the downside. However, if we go to a daily time frame, I pointed this out last week as well, you can see downward daily trend line broken as well. Nothing but green here, really looking strong. However, there's a daily supply zone above at 104.01, and I think if we do contact the supply, I actually think we probably will, then we will probably react off of it to the downside. Now, some people might say if you draw the supply zone like this, from wick to wick, you could say that it is in control. So it could be one of those times where it depends on how you draw it. It hasn't been contacted yet, or it has been. We could pretty much say, like, if you just look at it as in a curve context, right? This is the low end of the curve, this is the high end of the curve at supply. We're pretty much at the high end of the curve. So that is why I think the dollar will continue to fall. And if you look in the context of the 12-month chart here, you can see that we are clearly much lower in the overall monthly curve. We are closer to the monthly demand zone that you see on the screen right now. So I think we will actually contact that monthly demand zone and then rally up to the upside on the dollar. So I am expecting to see some more downward pressure, whether or not we hit this daily supply or not. We even have a daily supply above that as well at 104.86. I think we could react off of as well. But at the end of the day, what I will be watching on this 1 hour time frame is basically this trend line. Can this trend line hold? What do you guys think? I personally think we probably will end up breaking it. If we don't, we'll probably just hit that supply above and then end up breaking it. That is my prediction on the dollar. So for as long as far as the dollar goes, just watch the 1 hour time frame, this trend line. Watch it. If we maybe push up here, break it, that'll give us a nice 1 hour downtrend, and then we can start to look for shorts again. But ultimately, I am pretty bearish on the DXY. But like I said, it is possible we do actually pull up just a little bit more to like the 104 area and contact that daily area of supply on the DXY. On to the forecast for the Euro US dollar, and if you guys are liking the video so far, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you are new to the channel. And as far as the daily chart goes in the Euro, we have two little areas of demand here. You can notice that I'm not using my Fibonacci tool here to mark out these zones because they're just extra zones. For those who've been watching my channel for a while, I like to mark out demand zones that remove supply zones, right? Just like back here, this demand zone removes supply. That is the chain analysis that I like to do. Here, we don't have that on these two zones, but I felt like they were important to mark out, especially since they're on a higher time frame. I don't really like to do this on like a 4 hour chart. I like to do these extra zones that don't necessarily fit with my chain analysis. I like to do that more on the higher time frames and on the entry time frames. I think it's more reasonable. We're not going to get too much in detail of that, but I just want to point out there's two daily demand zones here that I think are decent. And with the fact that the DXY is coming into contact with that daily supply as well, I think we could easily react to the upside off of this daily demand. So long-term profit on the euro is technically up to 1.10. So there's not a lot here to stop price either. If you look in the daily chart, there's no supply until up here at 1.10. So I think we easily could break through this zone. I'm not saying we're just going to shoot straight up in two candles in a week or so, but I think there is profit margin to the upside, and I think we will be reacting off of it. So how do we trade this on the euro? Well, you have pretty much one option here. On this 1 hour time frame here, we have a 1 hour downward trend line that's currently being respected. However, if you look, you really zoom in, this candle looks like it wants to break above it. Now you can see right here the timer at the recording of this video, there's still about 22 minutes left, sorry, 27 minutes left. Just look, 27 minutes left at the time of me recording this video for this candle to close. But if this candle closes like that, then we will have the break of the trend line. And at that point, we will I think looking for longs will be fine. Unfortunately, I'm not really seeing any demand zones here. So what might be best is to wait for something like this, where maybe we get a nice push up, create a nice little trend line, something like this, where it's a clean looking trend line, and then longs are going to be fine, especially on a day trading time frame. But at this point, at this time, we are breaking above this trend line at this time, so that could be evidence to suggest, going back to the daily chart, that we easily could be getting that move up. It is basically the first phase of a change of direction, right? We've seen nothing but downward trends here, and phase one has pretty much taken place, which is a break of a downward trend line on the 1 hour chart, which can indicate we could be pushing up to that supply. Now on the daily chart, now on the 4 hour time frame, I think we'll probably hesitate around the 1.10 area up here. Actually, I think that 1.10 area, let me see. Actually, yeah, that 1.10 area is pretty much at the daily supply, so never mind. So yeah, I would just be monitoring this 1 hour chart, just like I said in the DXY as well. Watch what happens. If the trend line breaks, okay, then longs are going to be favored, especially since the higher time frame demand zone is in control. And looking at a weekly chart on my top left screen, you can see we clearly have a trend to the upside, and this literally just looks like some sort of pullback in an overall uptrend on the weekly chart. So monitor the 1 hour downward trend line, see if it breaks, see if we can get a demand zone formed or some sort of trend. Day trading longs are going to be much preferred here since we don't have a 1 hour trend yet, so keep that in mind. On to the forecast for XAUUSD. Gold looking extremely strong on gold, absolutely killing it here with momentum to the upside, trends to the upside on all time frames right now. Unfortunately, on the weekly chart, there's no weekly demand zones here until all the way down to 22.24. So I don't want to say it's possible we do get a pullback down here, because that would kind of suck, but it's just unfortunate if we do get a pullback. I'm really not seeing anything on the weekly chart. There are some zones on the daily chart, which I will point out here in a little bit. So if we do get a deep pullback here on gold, not seeing any demand here, but I am seeing a demand zone down here and a little bit of a support area trap as well. So if you do get a deep pullback down the 25.87 area, I think it's great for potential longs. Nice little drop base rally demand zone that's definitely half decent for sure. So like I just like to point out the higher time frames. If we do get that pullback, don't worry about it, right? We have a lot of backstop demand zones here on the daily chart to potentially get a beautiful swing trade long, even turn a day trade into a swing trade on gold. Now on the 4 hour time frame, trends are looking really, really strong. We do have let me just draw it here, a new 4 hour demand zone right here. Not my favorite zone, not the, like, I don't mind the move away initially, but we kind of pause here, which I don't love. So any pullback down to this 4 hour demand zone could be decent at 26.97. Definitely don't mind it at all. Could be, if you don't feel comfortable with just an entry and a stop loss below, you could look for confirmation on a lower time frame. And confirmation is actually something that we look at in some of the daily market breakdown videos in the membership. If you want to trade alongside myself and the community, join the Diamond membership for exclusive access to our daily market breakdown videos and catch trades like these. Plus, dive deep with our full-length forecast covering 26 plus markets, our interactive Sunday Zoom sessions, and personal homework to sharpen your strategy. And you'll also join our private Discord group for direct access to me and unlock a complete library of A to Z video lessons to master supply and demand trading. Don't miss out. Let's level up your trading. Links in the description down below. So yeah, it's a good 4 hour demand zone to wait for a pullback into, and even on the 1 hour time frame, there's a little 1 hour zone that's kind of hidden inside of that 4 hour zone. So it could be a tighter little zone. You get a trade off of a 26.95 little rally base rally 1 hour zone. And of course, as long as these trend lines are being respected on the 4 hour and the 1 hour time frames, you could be looking for 15-minute time frame longs and 5-minute time frame longs, as long as those trend lines are holding. So monitor the trend lines, monitor the pullback zones that I pointed out, and I think you'll do good here on gold, as it's really just, there's no signs of this thing slowing down at all. So we definitely don't want to be shorting at this time. Maybe next week, maybe throughout the week, if we get a change of direction on the 1 hour chart, then maybe we could add in shorts. Maybe we could be getting a pullback down to the daily demand zone, like I said. But in the meantime, all signs are pointing to the upside. Wait for the pullbacks. Look for day trading longs. I think all that makes sense here on XAUUSD. On to the forecast for the USDJPY. Now in this chart, I will be monitoring this daily time frame. This is a daily supply zone drop base drop that was formed back in August, and we actually caught this pullback trade on the USDJPY. You can go back and watch the forecast from August, and we came back in for a second test. We have really just not based out, but just kind of just lagged up here. Nothing crazy really going on on the charts at this time, but I will be monitoring this daily supply zone, because if we break this daily supply zone, the next stop is this daily supply zone right above at 152.70. But more importantly, if we do break that daily supply, I think that's definitely a sign that we could easily be pulling back all the way back up to this weekly supply 156.07, where I think we easily will see a move off that supply zone. It is a very, very significant area of supply. If we break through that, you know, I'll happily admit I'm wrong, and we could switch to longs, but I think it's a great area of supply to get in short at with clear profit margin up to there if we break that daily area of supply that I pointed out. Now, how do we trade this on the USD yen at this time? Well, clearly here in the 1 hour time frame, we have 1 hour trend to the upside. Technically kind of lost momentum here. We did have a trend line right there, and we clearly just broke that. So there is kind of a supply zone right here. It's not great, so we have to be a little bit cautious. I'm actually not even going to draw it. That's how much I don't like it. So we are back in for a second test on this 1 hour demand zone. And look, I don't really trade at tested zones anyways. You guys know me for a while. I don't trade at a tested zone at all, especially not if it's been tested this deep. If it comes in for the first test and just wicks in like that, something like that, then okay, maybe you could trade a second test if we break below, something like that. But when it's tested, you know, over like basically 80% of the way in, I'm surprised to see a reaction off of it. Could it hold? Sure, it definitely could hold. If you want, on a 1 hour time frame, you could be looking for 5-minute time frame longs as we come off this zone, so that would be fine on day trading time frames. But it's really tricky. The only thing we have going for longs is the fact that this 1 hour trend is still holding. Now, it is also possible we retrace all the way back down to that 4 hours on at 144.31, where we can get a move off of it like that. I think it's a great little rally demand zone. Beautiful move away here. It's just picture perfect. So we could retrace back to that, and yeah, it's tricky. I'm really not seeing a whole lot of setups right now on the yen, except for, like I said, the 4 hour trend's continuing up. So looking for longs on a 15-minute time frame could be okay with the prediction that this daily supply is going to break based on the fact that it's been tested already. So basically, it is longs right now with profit margin up to weekly supply. It's not my favorite chart to trade, I will say that. I think there are better opportunities, but if you really want to trade the yen, guys, you have to kind of focus on this 4 hour trend at this point and the profit margin we have to daily and weekly supply zones on the USDJPY. On to the forecast for the GBPUSD, the British pound. Let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are on the pound as we sit between supply and demand on the daily chart. Do you think we'll be going to supply, or do you think we will be going to demand? Let me know in the comments. In order to find that out, we have to monitor the lower time frames. So on the lower time frames, like the 1 hour chart, we clearly have this 1 hour downtrend being respected. The trend line could come into contact very soon as we are kind of approaching it. So if this trend line holds, then my prediction will be we will be going to the daily demand zone. And my prediction now remains, as long as this trend line's holding, it remains we will be pulling back down to the daily zone. If we break the trend line like this, then my prediction is I don't know, right? It's really that simple. I don't know. There's no trend. If we break the trend line, right, I'll be at I don't know. But if we create some sort of trend line to the upside in the 1 hour chart, then I have to go with the H1 trend to the upside and say, hey, I think we're going to pull up to the daily supply now. But since this trend line is holding, I think we will be continuing to go down. So shorts are fine on a 5-minute time frame as long as this trend line is holding. If the trend line breaks, then I would probably hold off on the shorts. And unfortunately, if we do break up to the upside, I'm not seeing really any fresh supply zones on the 4 hour time frame to look for shorts at. So it could be a sign we are pulling all the way back up to daily supply. But profit margin really is down to the daily zone, but more importantly, down to this weekly zone where I think it's an amazing dip buying opportunity at 1.28. So I definitely welcome more downside to this weekly demand zone on the pound, where I think we will get a potential great swing trade off of this weekly zone to push to new highs on the pound. So it is really shorts all the way, especially on day trading timeframes. I don't feel comfortable pointing out any zones to you guys at this time. I'm just not seeing any. So monitor the 1 hour downward trend line. If it continues to hold, it's shorts all the way. And hopefully what I said, if it breaks and stuff, then we have to wait for a trend to the upside to really get in long. Or, you know, if it breaks this trend line and there's a nice 1 hour zone there, then okay, maybe we can get in long at that zone with a prediction we will be pulling up to daily supply. And look, it's also possible, going back to the daily chart really quick, it's possible we do pull up to the daily supply and then pull back down to that weekly zone that's much lower. That is a possibility as well, and I welcome that as well, because we can get a beautiful swing trade off this daily supply with a very clear profit margin down to that weekly demand zone, which I love to see. I love to see very, very obvious profit margins. So let me know in the comments what your guys' thoughts are on the pound. Remember guys, any questions at all, leave a comment. I respond to every single comment as long as I see it. On to the forecast for the USDCAD, the country that I am from, Canada. Let me know where you guys are from in the comments down below. Maybe you guys can connect with each other if you're from the same country. So as far as the weekly chart here goes in the CAD, you can see nothing but strength here as we kind of pulled back, hit some sort of low and pushed up. Unfortunately, there was no weekly zone here to get in long at, so this was kind of just a random move to the upside in my opinion. But if you really zoom out, look at this pretty bad price action on the weekly chart. Definitely not one of my favorite ones to trade, but we cannot deny the momentum to the upside on the weekly time frame. So that is what we have to go with. And even on the daily chart, there's no real trend here. It's not that great. Even the supply that's in contact right now, it's very tested and it's not even good anyway. So it is tricky. On the 1 hour time frame, we have kind of started to pull back here. I'll make it very clear, if we break this low right here, we will have a 1 hour downtrend, and then we could look for 5-minute time frame shorts. If we break the high, 5-minute time frame shorts will become higher odds because we'll have a very nice looking trend line here, so it'll become higher odds. But in the meantime, so map out the highs and lows there on the 1 hour time frame for the highest odds trading. But in the meantime, we do have a 4 hour trend to the upside, so I don't mind looking for 15-minute time frame day trading longs. Yes, we are about to approach the high, but since the trend is up, we could predict that that high is going to be removed. It is a little bit aggressive, but it would be fine in my opinion. And even if we do get a pullback a little bit deeper down to 1.37, it's a decent little rally demand zone here. This wick kind of indicates where the real demand lies, which is down there. So if we do pull back down there, I think it's a potential great swing trading opportunity, and even a little day trade in there as well, using some sort of confirmation entry model. So you could be waiting for a pullback down to that 4 hour zone. That would be fine, and hopefully everything I said about the day trading makes sense as well. Again, ask me questions in the comments. I respond to every comment. On to the forecast for the AUDUSD on the weekly time frame here with a top-down approach. We did on the weekly chart peak above that high. Clearly some sort of fake out to the upside though. However, based on my upward arrow indicator here, you can see we have a trend to the upside. Not my favorite looking trend, but it is a trend to the upside. And on the daily chart, the price action is a little bit more clear. We did break the daily trend line that was to the upside, and we pretty much easily broke it here. And where I think we are headed now is back down to this daily demand zone. It's definitely possible, especially since we've broken this trend line. Now, like I said earlier in the video, I don't like trading at tested areas, but when we barely tested a zone like this, I think it could actually hold for a second time. I think we will probably break below that initial dip, something like that. If we do react off of it, this is what I think we will see. So profit margin to the downside, we definitely have to monitor the lower time frames. And my concern on this 1 hour time frame is that we've broken this 1 hour downward trend line. So there's a couple options here. If you think we won't pull back down to that daily zone, I don't mind this 1 hour zone down here at 0.66676. So if we do pull back down to that zone, kind of a support trap down here as well, it could be an area we see a move off of to the upside. A little bit risky because it is very, very counter trend. So it might be best to look for a 5-minute or a 1-minute time frame confirmation on the lower time frames as we come off that zone. That would make sense. But again, if you want to just enter long with a stop loss below and take profit above, the risk reward is definitely there in my opinion. It would just make me feel a little bit nervous. That is one option for longs. The second option for longs is if we can maybe get a nice pullback, something like this, create an upward trend line. Okay, then at that time, 5-minute time frame longs will be good. So we're either waiting for a pullback down to that 1 hour zone, or we are waiting for a nice looking trend line that we can draw, which would indicate a strong trend on the 1 hour chart, and then we could look for longs on those time frames. If you are bearish, I'm not seeing anything at this time except for a potential pull back up to this 4-hour supply. It is far from price right now, but maybe you want to get in long on the day trading timeframes. This is where I would be looking to kind of lock in most of my profit, at least 75% of it, and then from there, maybe you could get a short trade. It's really the only supply zone that I am seeing at this time on the Aussie US dollar. So keep that zone on your charts. Hopefully what I said on the 1-hour chart makes sense, and if we do pull back down to that daily zone, that's fine. Then we could even be looking for confirmation trades off of there, since it was, you know, barely tested like I pointed out. So mostly monitoring this 1-hour time frame to see what happens. Obviously, if we do break the low and that demand zone, then we're probably headed down to the daily zone. It's not that crazy. It's not that crazy of a prediction. I'm not some master or anything. It's just pretty obvious what's taking place if we do break that 1-hour zone. So monitor the 1-hour chart, see what happens around that trend line. If we can break that, or sorry, if we can break to the upside, create a nice 1-hour trend, then the longs are to be higher odds, or like I said, that pullback to that 1-hour zone is good as well on the Aussie US dollar. On to the forecast for the USDCHF. Kind of a similar chart as the USDJPY, where we had the daily supply, got a reaction off of it, except for the USDJPY, we are already in the daily supply again. We're not quite there, so it's possible we do see more moves to the upside on the USD Swiss. However, on the 1-hour chart here, we clearly have broken some sort of trend that was to the upside here. You can see we had the trend line, almost broke it here. It was respected. We did end up breaking it right here. So that could indicate we could go lower. Do I think we should short? Absolutely not. This is not enough evidence for me to suggest we should be looking for shorts. I would need to see this low removed at minimum, a nice trend line, and then, you know, shorting on a day trading time frame would make a little bit of sense. So how do we trade the USD Swiss at this time? Well, I don't love that we've broken that trend line, so it's a little bit risky. However, on the 4-hour time frame, we still have this 4-hour trend that is holding, right? Beautiful 4-hour trend line. It is getting a little steep. We are getting a little close to it, but monitor this trend line. As long as this trend line is being respected and we're not closing below it, 15-minute time frame day trading longs are going to be fine. Whether you trade supply and demand, support and resistance, whatever you do. I'm not saying there's one that's better than the other. I mean, I do think supply and demand is the best, but I have a bias towards that, and I understand, and hopefully you guys understand that. But however you like to trade, 15-minute time frame longs are going to be good, like I said, as long as this trend line is holding. Now, if we break the trend line, don't worry about it. We have a little rally-based rally demand zone here that not only broke supply, broke some highs as well. And I think it's a clear pullback entry down to that zone at 0.859. So recap, watch the trend line. If it's being respected, day trading longs are fine. Even on a 5-minute time frame, I think it's okay. I do prefer the 15-minute, but 5-minute could be okay as well. A little bit more risky, but and again, if we get a pullback, don't worry about it. 4-hour demand zone down below. And at that point, okay, if we break that demand zone, we get a 4-hour downward trend line, then we kind of have to, you know, admit that we were wrong and switch to potential shorts. But the reason I think we could be going up here in the USD Swiss is because there's a very clear weekly supply zone above that I think we easily could pull back into. So long-term profit margin up to 0.885. Hopefully that gives you a little bit more reason to potentially look for longs here on the USDCHF. Last but not least, we are on to crude oil. And if you guys want help with trading psychology, which is arguably the most important part of trading, check out my Stoic Trading Psychology podcast. My latest episode is fantastic with a fellow trader. Check it out. It's anywhere you get your podcasts. So on the weekly chart here, beautiful weekly downward trend line. Not surprised to see a very red candle here this last week on oil, especially as on the daily chart, we were ping-ponging between supply up here and demand. Beautiful move off of it, ended up breaking it after we already did an initial test. It's possible we do retrace up to this daily supply at 74.70 and maybe get a move to the downside. I think it's definitely possible. Do I think it's likely? I mean, not really. And the reason why is on the 4-hour and the 1-hour time frames, right? On my top right and my bottom right screen, beautiful downtrend to the downside and beautiful 1-hour downtrend to the downside as well. So I really like the 4-hour chart. It's a very clear downward trend. And as long as this trend line's holding and we're not contacting this 4-hour demand zone, you could look for 5-minute and 15-minute time frame shorts. So monitor the trend line, monitor this 4-hour demand zone. Do I think this 4-hour demand zone will get a huge move to the upside? Maybe not, but it is possible we get a 4-hour demand zone trade up to 4-hour supply and then react to the downside. Why do I think this move is more likely than something like this? Simply because the weekly trend is down. So I like this 4-hour supply better than the 4-hour demand, but you honestly could be playing both. You guys know I like to point out both long opportunities and shorts. Some on a chart like gold, I don't see any shorting opportunities, so there's none that I pointed out. On oil, I will admit I do prefer shorts based on the higher time frame trend to the downside. However, if you absolutely have to get in long, I would definitely just wait for this 4-hour zone. It is the highest odds area to get in long. I'm not saying it's going to work out. I'm not saying we will get a move all the way up to supply. It might even be one of those times we only get a small move and then a break of the zone to continue the downward trend line. So hopefully all this makes sense. Pull back to this 4-hour zone could be good for a quick swing trade long, maybe 1-to-1, 2-to-1, since it is counter trend. We have to be careful with that. Extra day trading confirmation there will be better. I will say that as well. Like I said, monitor the 4-hour trend line. Even if you do get a pullback up to here, as long as the trend line is being respected, 15-minute and 5-minute time frame shorts are going to be good. And if we break the trend line, don't worry about it. We have a beautiful 4-hour supplies and above. All the trend line breakout traders will be buying right into a beautiful picture perfect drop, base drop supply that removed a proven demand zone. So it's a beautiful area to potentially get in short to continue the downward trend on the weekly time frame here on crude oil. And if you guys want to watch the full length forecast with all the other markets, make sure to subscribe to the channel membership to get access.